All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Karen. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I would like to welcome you all to our last session as part of the virtual leadership series, where we're going to talk about servant leadership and what it means to be a servant leader. We are joined by Professor Heather Pennington, who does work in the School of Health Sciences. Very excited to have her with us this afternoon. If you all have any questions, she will have a slide where you can reach out to her. If you are watching this at a later date, but for our people who are here live, feel free to pop something in the chat or just unmute yourself respectfully and ask your question. But without further ado, I would like to just hand it over to Professor Pennington.
All right. Thank you, Karen. Did I say it right? Okay, good, good. I love that name and I want to make sure I get it right. So thank you so much. And I really appreciate the opportunity to come. And I know Emily, hello. I don't think I've met you, Gabrielle, have I? I don't think I've met you yet.
I don't believe so.
Okay, good. Well, we're going to get a chance to, because I want to get to know you guys a little bit, because I know there's only two of you guys, but I don't care. We can just have a little, conversation about you guys too. And I want to get to know you guys. And anybody that's watching recorded, I always welcome students to come see me when we can in non-COVID times in my office in Fieldhouse 105. If you have questions about topics that we talk about things that I share, or about fields that I teach in, minors that you can get in, majors that you can do. I just have a door open policy when we can, or email or Zoom is fine as well. So please reach out. But I am very excited to talk to you today about something that I'm very passionate about. And I kind of have a little play on words here, the tail end view. Like, what does it mean to truly be a servant leader? So leading from being last. And I want to put a disclaimer out there from the very beginning that I do not have this figured out. I am, speaking to you from a very low perspective, if you will. I have had a lot of people in my life that have impacted me in this area, many of whom actually teach at Lindenwood University. And I have been so humbled and blessed to be among some really amazing professors and people at our university. So it's a great place, and I'm very thankful for that. So my little play on words there is talking about just what actual servant leadership is. Let's just have some conversations about what it is. And I do want to share with you some personal tales of mine that have led me to kind of be, to learn, honestly, about what it means to be a servant leader. So first of all, like I told Gabrielle a second ago, is I would like to get to know you all a little bit. I've had Emily in class before. But first of all, girls, since it's just the three of us, four of us, I guess. How are you guys today? How's it going on this snowy, blustery Tuesday? You guys can unmute and talk. I love it when people talk back instead of the chat, or you can chat if you want.
I'm doing pretty good. I just got my second COVID shot this morning, so I'm just kind of relaxing.
Okay, good. Well, you don't have to do much. Just listen. And if you want to ask questions or if you need anything, you just holler, okay? All right, good. How are you this afternoon, Gabrielle?
I actually just did too. I got my second COVID shot.
That's awesome. Well, good for you guys. I hope you guys fare well with the second shot. I've heard some people do fantastic and some it's a little bit harder for others. So hopefully you'll do all right there. And I would love to know if you guys feel up to sharing just those other questions, those last three, like, who are you guys? Why are you here? I know a little bit now from Karen about your Elevate Leadership and what you have to do. But what do you guys want to do and who are you? Like, I know Emily a little bit, but tell me a little bit about who you are and what your kind of career thoughts, goals are.
I guess I can go first.
Okay.
Hi, yes, you know me. I'm Emily. I'm a business administration major. I kind of go to these because I find them really interesting, and also I'm president of my fraternity, so I always find it good to like try and gain different leadership skills, because I know a lot of like my members personally don't go to these, and I find it at least interesting to try and have at least like one of us be really in the know and like try and gain these skills that can help us in the long run.
Cool. How about you, Gabrielle?
Well, I'm a biology major, senior, actually about to graduate in May. I have been a leader for a few different organizations, done some stuff with my sorority Delta Zeta, and I'm currently the president of Order of Omega. I've been attending some leadership conferences and stuff like that. And I love learning about how to be a better leader and just how to improve myself.
Awesome. That's great. I love to hear that. I can't wait to see what you guys accomplish in life. That's fantastic. I love it. Well, I'm all about application. So I really want you guys to take like one little nugget that you guys can apply like tomorrow morning. I usually, when I used to travel and speak at different kind of conferences and things I'll tell you guys a little bit about, I'd always say Monday morning, because we're doing the weekend. What are you guys going to apply Monday morning? So let's get into some real, like, what can we apply? So I really hope I can share something with you guys that you guys will be able to apply. And to be honest with you guys might come up with something on your own from what we talk about that you might come up with, right? So I want to start with just a little bit of introduction on me and tell you guys a few tales. Okay, that's the play on those words there, that I've been able to experience and been so thankful to experience that have kind of led to some of these thoughts on how we can be more servant leadership like, if you will. So my name is Heather Pennington, like we talked about, and I do teach in the School of Health Sciences, which will be combined soon to the College of Sciences. And I teach in several different disciplines. I teach in therapeutic recreation, I teach in exercise science, and I teach in physical education. And my background really, I'm so thankful, is to do, I've worked in the field for about 15, 20 years now in the field of dealing with anybody with any kind of chronic illness, chronic disease, disability. Sometimes we say different ability, different mobility, kind of movement pattern, whatever term you would like to use. People with different abilities, disabilities, that's my passion, that's my heart. That's how, and that's with, combine that with recreation, with sport, with fitness, with just health, just overall health. And I think we can all agree, especially in our times of COVID, health is a big deal, right? Like our mental health, our emotional health is a big deal. And COVID has definitely played a big role in that and impacting that. So that's a little bit about kind of where I am at Lindenwood, so to speak. And so I really come from this topic from a perspective of faith. I will just tell you, and I love to have conversations about that. I don't know where I'd be without my faith in the Lord. And so I really feel like I've been so thankful and blessed to be loved well, from my family, from my friends, from the Lord himself. And so I encourage, like, my kind of philosophy, my background from this is that I am encouraged to love back, right? And that's part of servant leadership. It's kind of where my philosophy comes from, with my heart, my soul, my mind, and my strength. And so that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. This is a logo from InterVarsity, who I think does have a chapter on our campus. But I encourage you guys, and I would love to have this discussion of having your own philosophy, your own kind of backbone with what drives you in leadership. Like, it sounds like you guys already come to these things often and you already have some kind of idea on, and you're starting to form this. That's why I love these conversations, and I am going to leave some time at the end for discussion. And I encourage any question, any pushback, any whatever it might be, because I think we just learn from each other and how we can all have different kind of attributes and ways that we can help other people, right? I think that's why we're all probably here, is that we want to help others. And if you're watching recorded, same thing. What is your philosophy? I don't want you to come away with my philosophy, right? What is your purpose for what you do? Mine is I'm so thankful. I've been so well loved that I would like to love back, and loving and serving with everything in me, heart, soul, mind, and strength. And I don't do it perfectly by any means. I struggle, but I have people that help me along the way also to help me as I struggle. So first thing I would like to do with you all is, especially since you come to these things kind of often, what do you guys think of when you hear the words servant leader? Or I'm going to show you some images in a minute, and I want you guys to just probably, you guys can unmute if you would like to, or you can type in the chat. What do you think of when you hear or see servant leader? We need to be last to be first. And I'm going to scroll through these kind of slowly, but I encourage you to think through and just tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what comes to mind when you hear that terminology, because there's different philosophies in leadership, right? We have like the power first and the headstrong leader, and then we've got the servant leader. And then I love this. I'll read you guys a quote in a little bit, but there's also such an amazing variety in between. We have the two staunch kind of like ways we can lead right? And then we have this variety in the middle. And so that's what I really want to encourage you all today is how can you find your middle? Like, what is your middle ground? Or maybe you are one or the other. So I'm going to scroll through these and I really would love to hear from you all. And what do you think of when you hear the terms that we've talked about today and when you see some of these images? And I've tried to give credit where credit's due. So I did not, these are not mine. My son showed me this one. He loves memes, and so he's a big meme guy, so he found this one. And Maxwell's a big leadership guru, so I don't know if you guys know about Maxwell. He's written a bunch of books. There's a lot of neat people, and I'll share a couple names just so you guys have further resources to continue on your leadership journey. Maxwell is one, and there's another one that I'll share in a little bit called Greenleaf. I know these last two we're going to come back to because there's a lot of words on there. So we're going to come back to those in just a minute. But let me hear from you guys. I'll go back up to this kind of slide and then we'll talk through them and I'll scroll through those again. What are your thoughts? What do you guys think? What do you think of?
I can go first. I guess when I think of like servant leadership, I think of someone who puts others before themselves. They help not to like glorify them, but like to glorify the Lord or what they believe in, their organization. Basically they just want everyone to benefit from the work that they do, not themselves.
Okay, awesome. Love it. That's great. Good definition. Good thoughts. Emily, you want to share?
Yeah, so when I think of servant leader, I tend to think of like, so for instance, I'm willing to do like whatever my organization needed me to do. Like, especially this coming year, we kind of struggled with filling executive board positions in some instances. So I was like, I will literally do whatever you guys need me to do. And I think that's kind of part of leadership is like knowing your role and like filling in whatever spot they need you to fill in order to make your group successful.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for sharing. Anything and go ahead. Yeah, I want you to share. I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
Call you out.
No, it's fine. I think one of the things that I think about and I've thought about throughout like my journey through like leadership development is this whole idea of being more like humble in a sense that like, it's not about you, but it's really about the success of the organization. And, whether that is you, like Emily saying, taking more initiative to do more than what's outlined in your responsibilities. It's really about, understanding the dynamics of what it means to be successful within an organization or a team. That's kind of how I look at it.
Thank you so much for sharing it. Anytime, pop in because I would love your feedback. So I wasn't sure if I could like call you out, since you're not a student. Okay, excellent. Did anything else pop into mind when I showed you guys some of these images than other than what you guys said? I love this slide and I wanted to ask you guys if there was one word, there's a bunch of words on there. If there was one word that popped out to you guys that you guys would use to define servant leader, what would you say it would be? I think, was it, Kay-Ran, did you say humble? I'm not sure that'd be your one word, but that stuck out to me when you said that. So I don't know if anybody else wants to offer up a word that really shouts out to them from this multiple word slide. I love it.
I'd probably say,
she's like reading.
I know, I'd probably say hardworking and positive.
Yeah, good.
I think for me too, like, yes, I did say humble, but I think selfless is more of a good word to describe it because again, it's not like about you and the success that you bring to the org or like the strengths you have. It's about, versus like saying, do this and we'll be successful. We're like, okay, let me lead the way. Like, let's all go into this together, or let's take on, more responsibilities in order for us to all win collectively as an organization.
Awesome. Gabrielle, do you have one or no?
Sure. I think for this open-mindedness stuck out to me because in organizations there are people from all walks of life and they can all teach you something. I think being open-minded, you're willing to learn from people that have had different experiences from you.
Yes, I love that. Man, you guys have made me think of all kinds of different things in my head that I had planned on talking about, but you're absolutely right. Like one of my favorite stories is one of my friends was working for a gentleman that had Down syndrome, and she did not think necessarily he could teach her anything. And she thought she was there to serve him. And he literally transformed her life, like shared some love and some care and some concern for her. And she was in her mind going, I'm supposed to be caring for you. Like she was a caregiver. And he just flipped it on its head and literally transformed her life. I mean, she's a different person today because of what he did for her. And so I love that. And it has to do with the open mindedness, right? Like she went into it with, I'm here to serve you. Well, honestly, I can learn from any single person that I meet, right? At the grocery store, on the street. I can learn from you guys, like having that open-mindedness. I think we'll talk about a few of these words today as we kind of get into some other stories and topics that we're going to talk about. But I love a lot of these words. I love compassionate. I love being vulnerable. That's hard to do, right? It's very hard to admit when we're struggling to admit, because even the best leader on the face of the planet is a human, right? And so we struggle as humans. And so it's important to be, for me, I've learned a lot in the last few years to be authentic and to be vulnerable and to say, hey, you know what? I need more help. I want to serve and I want to do and I want to be here for this organization. But right now I need some help. Either I have to step back or whatever it might be. I think another one that really stood out to me was where it doesn't say, it says employee focused on that down of their kind of the left side of the screen. But I think other focused. I think Karen, I think maybe you said that. Like let's focus on other people, being selfless. So and we'll hit some of these qualities as we talk about some more different kind of main points that I'm going to go through. Speaking of serving from our heart, our soul, our mind, and our strength. And I have chickens, so I have to put my chicken picture in there. And so one of the main things I wanted to kind of go through is I'm going to go through these kind of 4 topics and thinking of how we can transform our mind, our soul, our strength, and our heart to be more servant leadership minded. And so I think about the mind, I think about diversity of thought, and I just want to share a little story of how I really had a vision change and a perspective shift. I think sometimes it takes that to be a servant leader. And what I mean by that is when I started in the kind of world of working with people with different abilities, and I like to focus on abilities. I mean, Emily's having class. You hear me talk about that all the time. Like it's more about what people can do rather than what they can't do. Like disability is defined as something that you're unable to do. Well, I don't really like that definition. I think people are able to do a lot of things. It's just how we can modify and change the situation, the environment, the rules that we play with, if it's a game, whatever it might be. And so I want to share with you a story of a really amazing, she's a young woman now. This is an old picture of a good friend of mine, and her name is Lydia. And she is missing her arms below her elbows and one of her legs and her lower jaw. And she is the most tenacious young woman that I have known. And she now wants to serve. And I love that because a lot of people in our society would say, let me back up. This is an organization I do want you guys to know about if you guys ever need volunteer opportunities. It's called Harbor Unlimited. And so it works with families that are affected by disabilities. And this family happens to have 6 children in it that are adopted. And 4 of the 6 have some form of different ability. And so I learned a lot from this young lady right here. She really kind of flipped things on its head for me because she would modify, she would help others. She's always wanting to serve. And now she wants to come and volunteer. And I love that about her because, some people might say, well, you're missing your arms and it's harder for her to communicate. She uses an iPad or her phone to talk sometimes because it's hard to, she talks with a very low, soft tone because she doesn't have that lower jaw and it's hard for her to close sounds with her mouth. but she can talk, and she's a talker, buddy, and I love Lydia. And so she really did help me understand and shift that perspective. The thing I love about Harbor Unlimited is we have the perspective and the shift when people join our organization. It's this exact story. It's Lydia comes and she's served for a while, and then all of a sudden we go, Lydia, what do you want to do? How do you want to serve? Instead of always being on the serving end, offering the opportunity and empowering, which is something we're going to talk about a little bit later, empowering Lydia. How does she want to serve? Right? Her biggest goal in life is just to be a mom of like tons of kids. And I'm like, you go for it, girl. You're gonna be the best mom ever, you know. And I've gone to her house and watched her cook and watched her do things, and her family helps her modify things, and it's pretty amazing. And we modified this bike for her to be able to bike, and she loved it. So she couldn't really steer, so we like put that little strap in front of her arms, and so she could steer with her arms that are a little bit shorter than ours. And so really it just comes down to me, that perspective shift. And when I started to be around, I'm also married to a man who uses a wheelchair, and we don't really see the disability. Sometimes we just kind of see the ability and what we can do as a family and what we can do. So it is a vision change and a perspective shift. And so I feel like from our mind perspective, sometimes taking a moment as a leader to look at somebody else's perspective is very important. To take a moment to say, I think I'm right here, but wait a minute, maybe that person is right. So let me pause. And it takes effort to do that, because I think we jump into conversations and we say, we come back with rebuttals. I think I'm right on this, or I think this is the way we should do things. And when we come at the attitude of a servant leader, we kind of shift it and we go, wait a minute, maybe they are right, or maybe I need to listen from their perspective. So, and this is just an organization. This is just another picture of some of our students doing some of the adapted sport. So I love that, because it kind of shifts again. Like now they have tried adapted sport. This is actually a sport called sled hockey. And Emily, I don't think that's your class. No, you guys didn't get to play sled hockey, I don't think. So I love to then challenge my students to jump in and to try some of these things, because again, you play hockey on your seat like that, sitting on a big hockey skate instead of standing up, your perspective changes, right? It's all about that perspective, that mind shift in our brain. Okay, so my second kind of point is about our soul. Like, how can we create around us a culture of trust? And that's difficult. How many of you guys have people in your lives that you trust wholeheartedly, and some people you're not sure about, right? So to be a person that is trustworthy, that's a big task, because there's a lot behind trust. Trust is not easy. It's not quick, right? It takes time to develop trust. And once trust is broken, it takes time to redevelop that trust, right? So, and I think a big part of the culture of trust is having empathy. Again, kind of seeing somebody from where they stand and hearing where they are, listening to them and caring for them. I have been super, super blessed to go on a couple different mission trips in different countries all over the world. And these are some pictures from my office. So forgive the glare a little bit. I was trying to take pictures of my office pictures. I love these pictures because they remind me every day that I see them about this culture of trust. These are children that were in an orphanage, and our church went down, and we were able to do a bunch of different things. And I love this organization that we worked with, because it does a lot of what we're going to talk about today. It doesn't just come in and like build a shelter and then leave, or build a well and then leave. It teaches these individuals and these kids how to work the well, how to go to school, how to be empowered to then make change, right? That's all part of being a servant leader, is that empowerment. And you guys all mentioned that earlier. So the top little girl's name is Jesula, and she really taught me about that picture of trust. I barely knew her. And after 3 or 4 days of just loving on these kids and sharing, pictures and drawings and just spending time with them, I'll never forget. There was one afternoon, it was a rainy afternoon, and we were standing on the porch of their school, and we were just talking, and she just said, I'm so tired. And the language barrier obviously was there, but I said, are you tired? Are you like sleepy? And she was like, yes. So I just picked up my arms and I just held her, and she fell asleep. She doesn't know me from Adam, right? Like literally, I am from another country. I've only been there 3 days. And so I think it spoke to me that this little girl would trust me to just sleep, right? And to just rest in my arms. And I think that's a big part of relating to people, is allowing them to rest and allowing them to be heard and allowing them to be happy, be sad, and me sometimes not fix things, just to be there, right? I think we all could agree that we like to be held, to be heard, to be listened to. Um, and I love the picture of the feet. That just really challenges me all the time, because I look at their feet and I'm like, oh my word, like they just would run around on the rocks and the everything, and here I am, coming in. And so that empathy, that trust, and that just that culture of acceptance. The other neat story about Haiti is we would we would leave for the day, and we would go stay at our little lodge, and we would come back every day, and we would do different things with and for the children, and with for the houses and the workers. And every day it was like a brand new day. We would pull up in our little vehicle, and they would like run to meet us. And it just, it was humbling 100%, because I'm like, I'm so blessed by these kids, and here they are running to greet us like we're some kind of celebrities, which is not the case at all. So it was such a blessing. Um, all right, the third kind of point I want to make is, how do we as servant leaders have an unselfish heart, right? So, and I have learned again from a lot of people about having that unselfish heart, having that other first attitude, like we talked about, that humility. And that's not something that's easily gained, because I'm just going to be very honest with you guys, and I would love your feedback. I think we all have a sense of pride, and there is a little bit of us that's like, I want to do this. I want to be, who I'm made to be my purpose, right? But if we kind of have the attitude with that, and I like what you said, Gabrielle, like, what am I here for? What's my purpose? Who am I glorifying by my actions? Is it others? Is it my organization? Is it my job? Is it the Lord, like you said? Or is it me, right? Putting others first and having that humility. And so, kind of my tale to go along with our heart and our unselfishness is in Uganda. I've been to Uganda a couple times, and I absolutely love Africa. I love the culture. I love the people. I encourage you guys, if you have not been outside of our country, to go and experience the world. I long to get back out there after COVID and explore more areas of our beautiful, amazing earth and planet. But we were in Uganda. I think this was the second time I was there. And one of the pastors of the church we were working with, we found out had malaria. And we were like, oh no. And it's common over there. It's very common. We got anti-malaria pills, and, we got all of our, immunizations before we went. But we were so sad for him. And he has twins. He has twins. They're older now, but back then they were probably just barely toddlers. They were barely able to speak. So they were like around 1.5, barely able to kind of teeter around and walk. And they both have sickle cell anemia. Another very painful situation, especially for a baby that can't understand. It's a red blood cell deficiency, that your red blood cells are shaped like sickles. And sometimes they get lodged and stuck, and you lack of oxygen. So you have cramps, and it's very painful. And so we wanted to, we immediately, when we found out this pastor had, the babies weren't feeling good and he had malaria, he was supposed to come with us and help us and teach us some things. And so we're like, well, let's just go to him, right? And we'll just say hey and check on him and see how he's doing, right? So we go to their house, and it looked like one of these houses. That's why I have this picture here. That gentleman is not the pastor that we worked with. I didn't have my pictures of my Uganda stuff easily accessible, but the houses look similar to this, okay? And so we go into his house, and there's like one couch with, well, if you can call it a couch, it's like a chair situation, and the floor, dirt floor, and one little candle sitting on a table. And they were sitting there, and in the baby's misery and his misery, they were singing praise songs, and they were writing praise songs, and they were just focusing on the Lord, on their faith. And immediately when we walked in the door, there was 4 of us visiting. They jumped up off of the furniture that they had, and they made us sit on that furniture. I can't tell you guys, like, I was like, heart, gut, stomach, like, you are sick. I don't want to be on this furniture. You need to be on this furniture. And he sat on the floor, and we talked and we laughed and we prayed with them. But the humility and the the ability for him to say, no, 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 you sit on this couch. It sounds silly, right? But it was very impactful to me back then. That was a long time ago, but it stuck with me. The hospitality that this man had, and the care and the concern for me and for my friends. So I just wanted to share that story with you, just to encourage you, when we think about how we can elevate others above ourselves. Sometimes that's difficult. It's very hard. Um, And our last kind of point for today is the strength, with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. And so, with the idea of strength, I want us to think about how we can empower others. I think you guys mentioned it earlier, but this kind of to me is like the the pushing point, if you will, of servant leadership. Is how do I foster leadership and teach others to then also go serve, right? Otherwise, it would stop. Not necessarily, but does that make sense? Like if I can empower Lydia, like she empowered me to serve and to lead. Look out, world! We're gonna have a million Lydias running around. Like she's amazing. Okay, we're gonna have millions of other people and these pastors and you guys being able to go now foster leadership and teach it and live it. And that's the only way I really believe like our society can change is by one at a time, that multiplication of us empowering others. And this is one of my most favorite. I have a lot of favorite stories, and I'm so blessed and thankful to be a part of an organization. It was in Alabama where I worked and lived. Are you guys familiar with this picture? You guys know what this picture is? You remember, Karen, I'm sure. I'm not sure you guys were born yet. Maybe you were.
Emily, Gabrielle, do you?
Yeah,
You know,
isn't
I was
it
like, I don't know.
9/11? I was born in 2000, so
Nice.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
so
ground
okay,
zero.
good. So say that again.
Oh, ground zero. Yeah.
Somebody say something. Yeah. So I mean, I remember vividly, like I'm sure you probably do, Karen, like where I was and what was happening in my life, and the exact moment that this horrible day happened. And fast forward 2 years later, I can't tell which one it is, but I met one of these men. I think it's the guy that has his hand in front of his face because I can't recognize the other two. But through my job, I was able to travel and work with the US Paralympic Military Program, and it was a grant by the Department of Defense, and we traveled around to different bases in the country, and we got to work with veterans that literally, you guys, signed up. So many of them told me many, many stories, signing up for active duty, like 9/11 day of, like no one's going to attack my country. It's so passionate. So they signed up, they went, they served, they got injured. Fast forward, then we come into the picture and do these clinics for all kinds of different things. And I meant to find a picture because one of my most favorite things that I get to do is adapted water skiing. So this is a trip that we went on to New York. And the most amazing thing about this event was we were teaching water skiing to these veterans who had brain injuries. They were at active duty, so they became veterans, always active service members of our country, whether it be Navy or Army or Marines or whatever it might be, lots of different service organizations and departments. But so they had become injured, amputees, spinal cord injuries, brain injuries. And so we arrive in New York, we live in people's homes for a couple weeks, and we're living with people that had lost family members in 9/11 in the towers. I was working with people that escaped the towers, and that were now teaching skiing. To hear some of their stories, is life altering, giving me chills. But the amazing thing was the circle effect, you guys, which is kind of what I want to talk about with the last point here of empowering. So here we have 9/11, here we have these firemen going into the towers and rescuing people, right? And then these men and women signing up, going to serve and in Afghanistan and Iraq, and then having their injuries. So when we get to New York, we find out that our volunteers that we are training to teach to help these wounded warriors to ski, to do scuba diving, to all these things, were these firemen. So I got to work with some of the firemen that survived from 9/11 and then teach them to serve the people who signed up and got their back. Does that make sense? It was just an unbelievable experience, and I'm so grateful. 9/11 every year is a little bit hard for me just because of this, and hard for me from a perspective of I didn't experience it obviously personally, but to know so many people that were affected by it and challenged by it and chose to serve and lead in that service in so many different ways by sacrificing their lives to be in the towers on that day, by then sacrificing other lives by signing up to serve in our military. So I was completely humbled to teach these firemen and work with them all day long, to then work with these wounded veterans to teach them how to water ski. At the end of the day, it was pretty amazing. One of my most favorite events and things I've been able to do, and very humbled by that. So I have some questions for you all as we finish, and some thoughts. Thinking of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. What do you guys think? Maybe is there one of those that drives you more than others? And then is there anything you think you would want to apply when we talk about it? Any questions you guys have? Anything?
I'll go first. I'm still kind of thinking, but this is funny. My heart goes to the heart because I think for me, like personally, just growing up, that is just how like our family was. Like, you learn a lot of things from the household. And so it never was about kind of having that, how do I say it? Like, when people just do things for the greater good of themselves, like that's just not how we were raised. And we always led with our heart in terms of helping others. And I know even like growing up, one of the things you talked about September 11, but really briefly, like when Katrina happened, that was another instance of where a lot of people came together and were more selfless. So it wasn't about, oh, I feel bad for these people in Katrina. It's like, what can we do? And a lot of people were displaced. And I'm from a really small town, Leavenworth, Kansas, which is like kind of a military base. And there were a lot of people who were displaced to Leavenworth, which was random, but we ended up having a neighbor who was a grandmother to 4 small children and didn't have anything, didn't know anyone. And I just remember just our heart being in we need to help her. We don't know her from a can of paint, but there's Katrina, there's the opportunity to provide access to things. And it's not just about us, it's about what can we do to show that we care and that we see them and that we want to help. And not from this, let me help you, I'm better than you, but like, you are a part of our community now in Leavenworth. Yeah. And we want to make sure that, those kids have everything they need. So we have like a fish fry. We raised money to get backpacks and school supplies and went through our church at the time and stuff like that. But that's the first thing that drives me was the heart, into helping people and really wanting to see people on their feet as much as possible. And it's not about us saying, oh, well, that, really sucks. But I mean, what can I do about it? And that's just kind of what I was trying to think through, was that specific situation and what led me and drove me to want to do things for it.
Yeah, I love that, because I think about, and that's a big kind of proponent, I think, of what we all go through. Tragedies. All of us have hard things in our lives, right? And how does that hard thing motivate us? What does it do for us? Like, you being able to step up in that time of that people's lives in Katrina and that community, that's beautiful. That's redemptive. That is restorative. And Katrina was not, right? Like, that was horrible, right? I also went down and helped with my university at the time because I was in school sometime, I think. But yes, and so you guys were part of the redeeming quality of that, impacting that life. I mean, that's a beautiful story, right? I love that. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Emily or Gabrielle, you guys want to share?
Yeah, I guess I can say, like, at least at this point in my life right now, like, my main focus in terms of kind of service is like to my fraternity. So what drives me would probably be trying to like strengthen my fraternity and make us better than we have been, because we haven't always been like as strong as we are right now. And like we've implemented a lot of different things over the past couple of years and just really expanded. And like we're trying to do more things on campus and like in our community, that just like strengthening that and like pouring my heart into like making us better is like kind of the reason I like to do it.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you for sharing. That's great.
I guess for me, that's hard because I think it's a mix between all of them, but
Sure.
maybe I could talk a little bit about mind. I feel like I love to think deeply and I love to learn. Um, so I think just being curious and wanting to know how I can serve people better is kind of my drive, at least right now. I don't know how to
Awesome.
elaborate on that, but yeah.
No, that's great. I love it. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you guys sharing. Do you guys have any other thoughts or questions? I'm always willing, like if you ever want Gabrielle to like have some deep conversations, I love those. Bring them on, you know. And I just really encourage you guys, if you're watching this recorded, to think about your own heart, your own mind, your own soul, your own strength, your own philosophy. You know, don't take my philosophy on servant leadership. I mean, like I said, my faith kind of drives why and what I think and how I want to be. And that's my backbone for that. That's my philosophy, is to be like Christ, because he served. I mean, like he lived and served. But I really encourage and I love having conversations with people about what drives you to do that, because every single person is different. And I think I love having those conversations. And I really love working with college students, because I think I want to push you guys, to help you guys, to challenge you guys. What do you guys want to be? I want you guys to be the next people that change our society, that change our world. So how can I, as a faculty member, staff member of Lindenwood University, help you guys do that? And so I encourage you guys, just as you guys fall asleep tonight, think about what is it that you can do tomorrow, Wednesday morning, right? To have one tiny little thing a little bit different in your day that helps to push and to challenge that idea of how we can serve and how we can be a servant leader. And I just appreciate you guys coming today. I know it's a snowy day, and I know you took your time out of your busy day and life and everything. So thank you. Here's my contact info. If you guys ever want to reach out with questions or comments, or people that are watching recorded, you can definitely reach out to me through email or phone. I didn't put it on here, but my office is in the field house, and it's just field house 105. You can find me. It's that little low building connected to the fitness center by the football field. So thank you so much, Karen, sorry.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
messed up. I messed up at the very end.
I think you're doing wonderful. Awesome. Yeah, great. Thank you so much for Professor Pennington for this wonderful session. I'm really actually sad because this is our last virtual leadership series, but I think we definitely ended on a high note, and it makes us think about, obviously the time that we're in, just even with the pandemic, how can we be a servant leader, within that space as well. So there's a lot of things that we can use as transferable skills when we're going through this. So I'm going to stop the recording, and then I do have a couple of things that I would like to talk about before we end.